I'm sure the internet world has reported and speculized. I don't even think that's a word. Has speculated on all kinds of scenarios when it comes to the Suzanne Morphew case. We've heard a couple of different family members now speak forward. We've heard a little bit from Suzanne's nephew. We've heard a pre-recorded, well, we heard a live report, kind of phone call with the nephew. We heard a pre-recorded plea about a minute long, or less than a minute long, from the husband. And now, even last night, we heard from the husband's uncle in a little bit of a conversation that happened between a reporter and the uncle. What you may or may not have, well, and let's talk about some things that are public. And I'm on my porch because it was chilling. It was like nice and calm out, and I didn't want to be inside, and I didn't want to give y'all like a green screen background, so I figured I'd sit on my porch. But now the wind is picking up, so we'll see how this goes. We've heard a lot of different things that have come forward, like they found some personal items. The nephew confirmed that they found a bicycle. Here's what I can tell you is that the nephew wasn't here in Colorado. So the nephew had to hear that from someone, that they heard that they found a bicycle, right? He confirmed that they found this bicycle, could confirm this. The uncle yesterday night kind of gave this more of a defense towards Barry. A lot of people have pointed the finger at the husband. A lot of people have said, they want to do it's funny because it's like everybody becomes a facial behavioral analyst when a person around a murder crime or missing persons. By the way, I'll put this out there. I'm probably going to start calling this a murder before anyone else, only because I've been told that this is being investigated as a murder since day one. Okay, here are some things that you didn't. I'm going to just fill you in, and then you guys can believe me or not. The neighbor wasn't prompted to go check on Suzanne out of nowhere. According, I don't know which one, had been trying to get a hold of her mother for a couple of days before Mother's Day. I think this is a case of a murder that was covered up, a murder that was tried to make look like something else, there's going to be evidence. The evidence is already there. They're already collecting the evidence. They're already taking, there is going to be someone arrested for the disappearance or the murder of. This is where this case is going. Like, it's headed in that direction. All indications, all even backhand sources that I've been able to contact kind of say this is where it's going. Some things that they didn't release to the public, which I'm kind of releasing to you now. Hopefully it doesn't, I don't think it's going to jeopardize anything. I want you to understand that, one, the neighbor didn't just out of the goodness of their heart decide to check on Suzanne. This was prompted by a family member. So you have to take that for what it is. It's one thing if a parent can't get a hold of their college age kid for a couple of days. They may worry, they may get upset, but kids will be kids, right? If I can't get a hold of my parents for a couple of days, if I'm texting and calling and trying to get a hold of my mother for a couple of days and I can't get a hold of my mother, something is amiss. Something is wrong. Now, in some scenarios, the kid, and sometimes I can't, I'm not going to argue the one-off scenarios. For a relatively seemingly responsible, normal family, If your kids are trying to get a hold of you, it's not going to take them days. It is not going to lead them to have to call a neighbor. Now the question is, why didn't she just call Dad? Why didn't she just call Barry? Why didn't she just call the husband? Well, maybe she was. Maybe she was getting answers from the husband that were not truthful. Maybe she was getting answers from family, and so she had to call the neighbor. Now, we know that the neighbor prompted the missing call to the cops. We also know that there was some sort of message about going on a bike ride. But I think what we're going to find out is it had been a few days since anyone had seen Suzanne, since Suzanne was caught on video, since the neighbors had seen her. And so, a source from within the sheriff's department at Chaffee County that they knew nothing about the husband's plea to the social media world. They knew nothing about that call or that pre-recorded conversation that was released and saying this and saying that. They knew nothing about it. I know from previous cases, and I know from cases that I've looked into since I started looking into true crime, that anytime there is an innocent person, they want to do whatever law enforcement wants them to do, right? Except sometimes law enforcement is at a miss. They don't have any answers, right? And sometimes victims can't hold their tongue. They can't hold themselves, and they do impromptu interviews. Both, I'm talking about victims. I know a lot of you want to compare Chris Watts' case where he did all these interviews and he's guilty. But if we just look at a similar case that's actually still in the court system right now, we can look at the Heidi Broussard case where Shane, her fiance, was pleading in weird interviews, was poked at by the media and looked at by the media as a suspect. Like, they put out a raw interview of Shane, and he's like, am I acting normal? I want this to come across, and people judge the hell out of him. So there is this underlining fact that the media doesn't necessarily want to give someone a fair shake. They want headlines, they want clicks, they want views. So when I look at a conversation, or when I look at a pre-recorded plea by a husband for his wife, I take into consideration, like, well, Michael, what would you do? Well, one, I can't compare myself to most people because I handle the media all the time. So having to deal with the media, I would definitely use them if my wife went missing or if my kids went missing, I would definitely use the media to my advantage. But if I was just an average Joe that wasn't used to speaking in front of a camera or used to speaking to media personalities or being in front of the big cameras and the lights, I would be very weary of speaking with the media unless it was at the direction and the cooperation of the sheriff's department or the cops or the FBI or CBI. If the cops had prompted me and said, Michael, we need you to make a plea for your wife or your daughter or your kids, then all of a sudden I would be, yes, whatever I need to do. What I can tell you is the sheriff's department knew nothing of the plea. I can understand not trusting every media outlet. I can understand not calling media outlets. I can understand all of that. And I'm not pointing the finger at Barry, or at because of he didn't cooperate or go to the media or do as many outlets. Like a lot of media personalities will say, well, what do you think? You know, what do you think? I mean, if I would be going anywhere I could to get her story out. And I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't trust you guys. I told them right up. I told them straight up, I wouldn't trust you because of what I've seen happen in other cases. Guilty or innocent. We have a guilty case we could look at, the Chris Watts case, but we also have a very innocent case where they tried to crucify a fiance for a crime he had nothing to do with. And so you got to be real careful. And YouTubers and Facebookers and bloggers like me, some people think, oh, well, you're not very careful with what you do or say. I don't have to play by the same rules, right? I'm not in those scenarios. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a news personality. I'm held to a much stricter standard than most news personalities. That's because I have a conscience. I have a moral obligation. I am not sold out to a corporation. Do I think, people ask me, what do you think happened? Do you think the husband's involved? I think someone with inside her circle is definitely involved. When it comes to this missing woman in Chaffee County, Colorado, when it comes to this missing mom who went missing on Mother's Day, her husband wasn't around on Mother's Day, her kids weren't around on Mother's Day, and she was supposedly, allegedly out on a bike ride and vanished. I think something happened to her before Mother's Day, maybe a couple of days. According to her daughter, it was a couple of days, and she wasn't able to get a hold of her mother. She finally reached out to a neighbor. This tells me something is amiss amongst the relationship of the family. It just tells me something isn't right there. That's all I can gather from the information that I have gathered from the sources that I have talked to that have said the neighbor prompting the call to the cops, the neighbor reporting this, the neighbor doing this was at the prompt of one of Suzanne's daughters. And all that tells me is something is not right in the family structure, relationship in that area, in that family. I don't know what it is. I can't sit here and judge for, you can judge me for saying that. I'm just saying that if one of my kids couldn't get a hold of me and they called a neighbor instead of calling my wife. So now the question that I didn't get answered, because I asked it, was, well, had the daughter contacted the husband, Barry? And I don't even know if Barry's the father. Like, I don't know if this is a split. I don't know enough about this family. Could very well easily be a full intact family. Daughters are Barry's daughters. I don't know any of that info. I'm not even trying to go down this road. But what I'm saying is, for a daughter to contact a neighbor, for the husband not to be necessarily not cooperative, but acting on his own, is not abnormal. It's not abnormal for the husband to say himself is innocent, and we've seen was literally made and toyed with by the media and was turned out to be innocent. What do you think? He kind of scripted, which isn't weird. There are cases where men don't even speak up. Kelsey Barrett's father never made a public statement or plea for Kelsey Barrett. Kelsey Barrett's mother made the statement with cooperation from the police and in cooperation with the police. Patrick Frazee, guilty, never made a statement. Chris Watts made a statement. Teabag Tisha Stalk made a statement, to the media being guilty. It's real hard to judge by the 60-second video. I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I'm some sort of expert when it comes to body language or Everybody's like, he's shaking his head. That means all these, listen, it could mean 100 different things in 100 different manners. What are y'all's chats saying real quick? Let me see what these chats are saying. I saw that they probably arrested someone who didn't have paperwork. That is not abnormal for that area, and it's not. And I know that for a fact, is the best I can say it. I know they are investigating this case as a murder case. But it's coming. There is going to be an arrest made if it hasn't already been made, and it's someone within inside her circle. Now, I don't know how big her circle is. A lot of people have said she ran a nonprofit with a couple of other males and a couple other females plus her husband. I don't know the inner works there. I know that just because of the daughter's statements, calling neighbors to find out where mom is, hasn't been able to get a hold of mom. What I don't know is how much that plays into the husband. What I can tell you is the cops made some very distinctive, very calculated statements in the press conference. The press conference statement that really stood out to me was, the husband is being cooperative as of now. We hope he continues to be cooperative. That is a weird statement. That is a calculated statement. The fact that they now have taken control of the house and are looking at the house for evidence tells me that they believe something happened at the house, that they know now that the story around the bike ride is not panning out. The evidence around her going on a bike ride is not lining up with some things. And so, with that being said, I don't want to go any crazy. I don't want to go. If I start going, see, I have my own speculations. I have real speculations based on information I have. They're going to make an arrest, and when they make the arrest, I will let you guys in. And all I can say is that the arrest is going to be made from within someone within inside her circle and very close to her. That's what I got right now. I'm not pointing at the husband, but the husband looks suspicious in my eyes only because of the family structure, not because he made a statement, not because of his statements. Very scripted, 30-second to the point. I mean, this is something that we have to understand in today's internet age, that message has been shared 10,000, 10, 20,000, 40,000. I don't know how many times it's been shared and reposted. It's a very smart, direct statement to someone or something. Now, what I can tell you is my sources didn't make it sound like the husband is being over cooperative. He's not being not cooperative, but like I said, the cops didn't know that statement was going to come out. The cops didn't know that statement was going to come out. He hasn't done a live interview. He's refused all live interviews. Again, I don't hold this against him, but we look at it and go, if you really believed your husband or your wife was missing and people were willing to talk to you and get that story and that message out, and you were innocent, why wouldn't you? Well, one is because you don't want them to paint you as guilty, right? You don't want them to paint you as guilty because you know you're not guilty, right? Interviews, because you don't want public opinion to sway and look at you if you're innocent. If you're guilty, you obviously don't want to do a bunch of interviews because you know it could sway or persuade public opinion to look at you. I don't look at the pre-recorded or the planned 30-second video as some sort of weirdness, because we're talking about a situation that's got to be, for innocent people, for an innocent husband, has to be the most emotional, draining, dragging killing thing there is. I believe that you're going to get some answers quickly. Like, my phone blew up last night. It probably will blow up after this video because they're probably going to be like, Michael, we told you not to say nothing. They always tell me not to say. You know how they always tell me? They're always like, don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. Don't call dad with the phone. But look, information that's not being reported that I believe to be fact, the daughter is who prompted this. She's trying to get a hold of her mom. Couldn't get a hold of her mom for a couple of days. I don't know if she called her dad. Woo! I don't know if she was if she couldn't get a hold of her dad. I know she couldn't get a hold of her mom, and that prompted her to call the neighbor, to get a hold of the neighbor to go check on her mom. That in and of itself tells me there's a family structure or a dysfunction amongst the family that has to be looked at. The fact that the cops are now searching the house, looking at the house for evidence, very much points that this isn't a missing persons case. On top of, I've been told they've been investigating this as a murder since day one. I don't know why they go about saying the things they do on the news. I don't know why they go about releasing some information, but not all the information. I don't know why they go about in this weird, wonky way of what they release and what they don't release. This one's not going away. It's in the 4th Judicial District, which is becoming famous for famous cases. So this case is going to be looked at by the same DAs that look at Teabag's case, that look at, I think it's 4th Judicial District. It may not be. It may be the 15th district. I need to check on that to double check. It may be the 15th district. I'll have to look at it. But this case is close to, where all these other weird cases have happened. It's in the state of Colorado. It's within an hour of Patrick Frazee. It's within an hour and a half of the Tisha Stout case. It's within 3.5, 4 hours of the Chris Watts case, all happening right here in Colorado. Dad with the phone is going to follow it all the way through. We'll probably end up going to the trial when this goes to trial, if it goes to trial, with the person who's responsible for this. It's going to be a crazy one. A lot of information is going to come out in the next couple of days. A lot of public information, a lot more with sources coming in from within inside these areas. These people are starting to realize that social media is where this thing's 150 different tips have been called in already. So, there's a lot of information that's coming in, and the cops are starting to move in a direction that is familiar to all of us. And so as we watch this unfold, Dad with the phone will be right here to let you know. If you're just joining, you can go back and check out the video, or I'll give you the breakdown. The daughter is who prompted this missing persons opening because she couldn't get a hold of her mom. The cops didn't know about the plea from the husband until the plea was already released. This is actually probably more public information than you know, because they have actually assigned a public information officer to this case. So anyone can call up and speak with the public information officer. So it's not even like an inside source on some of this. Some of this is directly from the public information officer. They knew nothing about the plea video until it came out. It's a little suspect to me that the cops didn't know about it. It's not suspect that he didn't use media or that he didn't do some long plea to me. It's a little suspect that the cops didn't know about it. I believe this crime happened prior to Mother's Day. That's just when we were made privy of it, when the public found out about it. So there you go. Little inside info, little quick shorty, little 30-minute shorty with Dad with a phone. Thanks for watching. You can find me at all the links below on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and wherever else, YouTube. I ain't going nowhere. I'll be here. We've got some exciting news for Dad with the phone stuff. We're right on the tip. We're right on the tip of releasing that. So enjoy this video while you can. Facebook may not leave it up. YouTube may not leave it up. It may get an exclusive deal.